Welcome to Bold Talk. I am really excited about my first guest, Josie, aka the Redheaded Libertarian. Josie, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here, and I'm happy to be your first guest. And we're gonna get through this, and it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and we're matching. So
Yes,
there's
we
some
planned it.
similarity.
We didn't even plan it. Here we are.
We did not, folks. We did
No,
not plan this.
no.
First, similarity number one. Similarity number two, we're both bold libs.
Yes, exactly.
I'm the bold
Well,
liberal. You're the bold libertarian. Although I
exactly.
don't know, some people might say I'm the bold libertarian these days.
Yeah. Well, you're never libertarian enough. That's something that I've learned in all my years. You're never libertarian enough. But that's kind of the purity test. Is when somebody says you're not a real libertarian, you are. It's like it's your rite of passage.
I love that. Speaking of, where did your name Redheaded Libertarian come from? It sounds self-explanatory, but is there more to the story behind it?
No, I was just a redhead and a libertarian. And I actually, when I joined Twitter at the time, it was December of 2017, and I just made it up on the spot. I came down, it was between the green-eyed libertarian and the redheaded libertarian because those are my things. But I was like, green-eyed might be confused with jealousy, like the green-eyed monster. So I was like, oh, I'll just
Yeah.
kind of avoid that. I'll just be redheaded. I'd rather be related to the redheaded stepchild or something like that because I felt it was more fitting. And I
Yeah.
actually, when I joined, I didn't have a picture or anything like that. I was just, I think I was a Figaro for a little while, my cat, and I think I was an eyeball for a little period of time. I wasn't me. And so everybody thought I was a guy. Um, and so when I finally put out a picture to say, well, this is who I am, I had somebody reach out to my husband and tell him that somebody on Twitter is catfishing your wife. Yeah, I know, because I hadn't put any protections up. I didn't plan any of this. It just kind of happened. So I maybe had like 10 or 20,000 people before I shared a picture of myself, and everybody was reverse Google searching. And I was like, oh my God. And I'd modeled and stuff. So it was one of the pictures from when I modeled. So, it obviously came up, and now I'm like much more protected and that sort of thing. But it was a quick lesson to learn. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. People are wild. The internet is wild.
It's the Wild West.
How did you deal with all that at the time?
There's a lot that you have to unlearn when you're becoming whatever you're becoming. So I had to like unlearn taking things personally and being offended and being worried and nervous and scared. And I just had to just grab life by the balls essentially, and just let things roll off my back and that sort of thing. So it was hard. It was hard, especially growing, because when you're growing, you get people, and I know you've experienced it too. You get people who try to expose you, or who try to purity test you, as we were saying earlier, or just try to like demoralize you and that sort of thing. And every level you have to growing, it's like you get over this hump, and then come this new trial that you're facing, and so then you have to overcome this new hump. And I think the whole experience, you grow and you grow and you grow a little more, and then you become who you're meant to become on the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can definitely relate to that. I think, it's really a character builder, and like it builds so much resilience. I don't know about you, but I was kind of a sensitive person, like my family background and everything. Like I was a sensitive person, but you unlearn that real quick when you put yourself out there, online and social media, whatever. And I was in the TV and film industry as well. So yeah, you definitely develop a thick skin.
And you're taught, as women, we're taught to take things personally. We're taught that we need to, what other people think about us is important. And really it's not. It has no bearing on your life. The only opinions that matter are the opinions of the people who love you. And once you figure that out, and like, even today, somebody said something to me. They said that you're not a real libertarian, and I'm like, I don't give a shit what you think. I don't care, and it's so empowering. It's its own sense of power to just not care.
Absolutely. I mean, and yeah, and to get to that place, it must feel like such a big accomplishment. I feel like it's a work in progress, but
Mhm.
to kind of, it's really easy to get wrapped up in that, especially like you said with like the media and the way our society is, particularly with women. I think it can feel really good when you're like comfortable enough to not take things personally and be comfortable in your own skin and proud of who you are and embrace that. So, I mean, I love that so much that you're modeling that for other women and people in general. I would imagine, we have our days still, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What I try to do is I'll try to, because people are like, why are you arguing with that person? Well, first of all, I'm going to argue with anybody. Just because I have a following and you don't, it doesn't relieve you from accountability. If you're going to be a jerk, I'm going to put you in your place about it because I have self-respect. But what I do sometimes is with other women, um, they might not know, because I know I was going in blind to this, and I didn't really have anybody guiding me or showing me how to handle situations. So if I see something that I'm like, this could be a teaching moment, I'll respond to that person. I'll quote tweet that person, and I will turn it into a teaching moment so that other women who follow me, and I actually, for a libertarian, I have a large female following. I mean, the average libertarian woman, I think we make up like 2% of the population, and I think 20% of my followers are women. So
Wow.
that's why that's a large group of women who follow me. So if I see there's a point where I can teach them something, where I can model something, where I can say, if you're dealing with this, here's how you handle it, then I'm going to do that. And I see it, and I see it reflected back on me. I'll see them do the same thing. Like one thing I say is, like, not taking things personally. People, they'll say something to try to correct you, and for me, they're wrong a lot of the time. Sorry, but you're going to be wrong. And then they'll try to like throw an insult at the end or something like that, or they're not even really going to correct you, and I'll be like, very cool, how am I wrong, instead of like, oh my god, how could you have said that about me, and so that's just kind of an effective way, because it kind of speaks to their character and their intelligence level if they can't really correct you appropriately, and then they try to insult you on top of it.
That is a really incredible and difficult skill to have, and that's why I asked this. I love asking this question because I get this question so much of like how you deal with trolls, how you deal with haters, how you deal with negativity. And sometimes I feel like I don't want to give them that attention. I want to like ignore it because sometimes that's what they want, right? They want you to bark back. They want to get you going. They're trying to low blow or hit you where they think it hurts. But like knowing the time to respond and to do something with it is really like a delicate, seems like something you've been able to like hone in on and use to help other people. I love that so much. Is there any like examples you can think of a time where you were able to like step in and I don't know, I guess maybe if it was a woman to model something to help them out in a given situation?
When it comes to um, some women that I see deal with. So I won't say who it is, but there is a woman who I've kind of taken under my wing on X, and I've watched her grow from maybe like 2,000 followers to like 150,000 or something, whatever she has now, and it was in a very quick amount of time. Um, and there were women. She's very pretty, and there were women who were coming for her over that, and it was in such a way that was so manipulative and so mean and so kind of backhanded, like a backhanded compliment. And we know them, we get them, like, oh, that was, very brave of you to wear that outfit, things like that. And they were doing things like this to her, and she wasn't at the point that I'm at. But, here I am. I've taken this girl under my wing, and I'm seeing them do this to her. And so I immediately responded very nicely to this woman. I was like, why are you behaving like this? And then she did this huge like, oh no, girlfriend, I'm not doing that to anyone. That it was just like so fake. And I had found something that she'd said about me, involving me in a negative light, and talking about being a girl's girl. And I was like, you know what? If this is how you treat girls, then I'm really glad that you left me out of your club. It's not the kind of girls club that I want to be a part of. And ever since then, this woman, she doesn't have a big following. She does have a podcast. She's like resented. Like she's never been able to like explain why, but she just doesn't like me. And I'm like this big target in her like hate of her life now, just because I played her out, and she's lied like about it. She's lied about the exchange. She's, to try to like make it make sense for why she hates me. But it's just because she was called. She was called out on being a
Yeah.
bad person when she had an opportunity to be a good person, so that's what I like to do. And, I'm not like a perfect person or anything like that. But when it comes to people who are supposed to be my allies, I'm not going to pick a fight with them. I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that, especially to another woman who's supposed to be my ally.
I love that so much. It just shows your sense of like advocacy and being a good human. And I feel like we don't see enough of that. Like just, caring about humanity and doing the right thing and sticking up for people and just like you said, calling people out when it's appropriate. Too many people are bystanders or, they're worried about kind of the wrong things. Like their priorities, in my opinion, right, are not in order. So I really love that so much. And so yeah, so speaking of labels, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but
Absolutely. Let's
I,
go.
I love to call myself the unboxable.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not big into labels. So, being the girl's girl thing, it's like as if that's gonna hurt. Like, call me what you want. Like, right? Good behavior and the right thing to me is the right thing, whatever. It's just funny. Obviously, like when people get defensive like that and just like try to derail and deflect, it's like you've done something right. You've you've hit the right button. So but am I right that the New York Times called you vividly vulgar? Is
Yes, they
that
did. Hmm.
can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. So the New York Times ran a story when I was in the Calendargate. I modeled with a pie in my kitchen because I'm a award-winning pie baker. And so this conservative man came out, and he goes by the conservative dad. Okay, so it was conservative dad's, apostrophe s for ownership, because this we're going to get into this. And conservative dad's calendar for the most beautiful women in the world, or whatever it was. And he took me, who was a pie baker, and he had me bake a pie. He took Dana Loesch, who is a gun advocate, and had her shoot guns. He took a fitness model and had her be a fitness model. He took Riley Gaines and he had her model in a swimsuit because she's a swimmer. So it was all highlighting the strengths that who he found to be these beautiful women in the conservative movement, strengths that they had, things that made us unique. And the New York Times decided that it was raunchy. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, but my picture, which was just me in a dress in my kitchen right there, this seemed to make a lot of people mad. It made a lot of people mad. And the Christians came for me, and the Jews came for me for some reason too. It was just this religious people coming for me, from the Islam people everybody came for me. And it's because in my kitchen, I have a cross of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ hanging on my wall. I am a Catholic. I have it, and I have a cross in every room in my house. So it's not something I even thought about. It's not something I was ever going to edit out for any reason. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just in my kitchen in a sundress baking a pie, and I looked totally normal. I live in Florida, and I wear sundresses all the time. I'm wearing one right now.
Yeah. It's
So it wasn't.
hot as hell.
Yeah, I'm trying not to die. Sorry. So it
What
for
would you
probably
have me do? Wear a sweatsuit. Yes.
exactly right. 8 straight weeks, I had people particularly come for me of the entire calendar. I was not in a swimsuit. I was not. There was nothing skanky about what I was doing. It was just so the New York Times decided we're going to come for her too, and they reached out to ask me for uh, a statement. And they'd already obviously written their whole thing anyway, so I wasn't gonna give them a statement. So they ended up writing the piece, and they found a tweet that I had written, and it pretty much said, "I don't care I don't care. Like, I'm a mother and I'm successful and I'm happy and I did this and I loved doing this. I got to model again and I love that. And it just was this whole thing saying, I don't care. And it did have language in it. So they were, New York Times decided they were clutching their pearls, that this was the raunchy conservatives. And they were vividly, and what I said was vividly vulgar because they couldn't even bring themselves to quote me on it. So then I wrote back the New York Times. I read their article and I wrote them back and I was like, hey, you guys got a lot wrong because you didn't do your due diligence. And I sent them a list of all the things that they got wrong in the article, how they misrepresented people. Yep. And then the New York Times writes me back. They're like, we stand by our journalism. And I'm like, you know what? I was going to write you back again and like take it up higher than it needed to go. But you guys don't have any reach. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, I had like 600 or 700,000 followers. And I'm like, I get more reach than you guys. More people are going to read what I write than will ever read what you write. So I'm just gonna let it lie and I'm gonna make my own correction because you guys are not real news. I'm the media now. And that was it. I never heard from them again. But yes, the New York Times did call me vividly vulgar because they refused to quote my actual words.
Oh my gosh, what a baller. What a mic drop. I love this. You're like modeling. I mean, wow. You like really know how to take, a situation and really like maximize it and like handle it like a boss. That's very inspirational and great. Like, great. I'm so glad we talked about this because I feel like that's really helpful for other people. Like, I have a background as a therapist, and like a lot of these things have the potential. I mean, I'm sure that was really difficult as you were going through it. So I'm sure, I'm sure you had your struggles with it at the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. There were people I thought were my friends were like turning on me, were deciding that they were going to side with other people about it and that like I'd see them talking about me like I couldn't see it, you know. And so that was hard. That's the hardest part, is when you think you can trust people and then you find out that they're awful people. um, and then you have the grifters who will find any situation and try to grift off of it. And I'm not going to name any of them because I'm sure you know all of them. Women in particular who will try to belittle other women who are more successful than them instead of helping amplify those women and being amplified back. And you know what that feels like? These women don't know what it feels like to tell a woman how beautiful she looks and see her light up. Like, they don't know the kind of dopamine that comes from. They'll take the quick dopamine of insulting her and feeling like that made them a better person. And I never understood that. I've never been like that. So
No, me neither. And like, and does it really? I mean, for some women, I think that it does. Unfortunately, there's something wrong with them, like something
yeah,
so messed up that they actually do get off on that. But I think ultimately, like I don't know, somewhere deep down, I feel like a lot of women who do that, I mean, they're doing it for a reason,
yeah.
but it's not coming from a good, and I don't think ultimately it's making them feel better.
No,
So it could be a win-win, right? Because to me, like, seeing, like you said, seeing, like, doing something nice, saying something nice, compliment, like making someone's day is just the best feeling. So it's a win for everyone. It's a win-win.
exactly. When you make somebody's day, you're just like, wow, like, you look so strong and happy and beautiful today. And then just watch a woman be like, wow, like, thank you. Like, you just watch her. We don't get a lot of that, especially from other women. You might get it from a lot of men, not a lot of women. And when a woman says it, it's like, well, now it's real. So even when it comes to things like wearing pretty dresses and wearing makeup, I do that for other women. I don't do that for men. Like, that is something I do for me and something I do for women. And they're always like, wow, you like, how did you do your eyeshadow like that? Like I said, I don't wear makeup very often, but it's like, or where did you get that dress? Things like that. And I'm like, yes, that's the kind of stuff I do for other women. Cause I think there's just such a shortage of women who empower each other. And it's a bunch of women who just insult each other. And that's the thing, because we're taught as women another thing to unlearn, which is something I never really learned in the first place. But it's that we have to compete with each other. And this is a biological thing. I know it's real and it exists. It's women used to have to compete for a mate. We don't have to really do that anymore unless you're like a really bad person. And then you feel like you might have to knock another person down. Other than that, it's like, let your own strengths stand out, that sort of thing. So just being able to help women and lead women in that way. I love being able to use my platform to do that. And I have 3 daughters. So I have people who are always watching me, and I want to be a role model for them and for others.
Well, that's lovely. I love that. That's not something, I love learning that about you. And I definitely connect with that and think that's such a beautiful thing about you. And just shows what a great mother you are, modeling that for your children. So I love that. It's very, yeah, empowering and girl power and just like about humanity again and all of that. So kind of going back to your, I know you're kind of a history buff. So I'm kind of curious, a libertarian, what it means to you. How do you define it, and sort of what issues are you most passionate about related to um, individual liberty?
Absolutely. I mean, there's the really libertarian stronghold, which is property rights, accountability, personal responsibility, self ownership, that sort of thing. And then what I dive into is a lot of our founding is our founding fathers. They were separated kind of not officially, but into Federalists and Anti-Federalists. And the Anti-Federalists, Sam Adams, Patrick Henry, John Hancock, they were libertarians. They're what that was. It's states' rights. Okay, so you'll see me. I'm not a big federal anything. I'm like, it's no, we leave it to the states. Like, it's none of my business. It's not the federal government's business. It's the states' business. So I'm very into that. And then they were interrupters. So they would plan the Boston Tea Party. They were the ones after. So the entire revolution. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that led up to it with the tax acts in particular. But the thing that was really the powder keg for it is the Boston Massacre. Now we hear about that, but we don't hear anything more than the fact that it happened, and there were 5 people that died, and sometimes you learn that John Adams represented the redcoats. Some people know that, a lot of people don't. But what kicked it off is there was a murder of an 11-year-old boy by an informant that was widely hated. And he got anxious and he shot into the crowd, and he ended up killing this little boy. And so the Boston Massacre was a culmination of 2 weeks of riots following that this awful, awful thing that happened. And we don't hear about that. His name was Christopher Snyder. And a lot of people don't know that. So after that, the Anti-Federalists, or the Sons of Liberty, which is what they kind of organized themselves to be, they did not let his death go ignored. They hosted the riots. They had the longest funeral procession ever for this little boy. And so these are the libertarians, and these are the people that I'm like, I'm a lot more like them. And on the other side were the Federalists, and they were more like traditional conservatives or MAGA Republicans. Really, they were like, well, you need a limited government, a limited federal government, not a big one, just enough for police, justice, and military, and that should do it. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're sort of at that point again, and we see that MAGA is kind of divided into that. It's divided into the Sons of Liberty and the Federalists now at this point. So it's just really interesting
Totally.
to see the parallels.
That is super interesting. How long ago, when did you realize that you identified with the libertarians?
I kind of always was, but I didn't know how to put it to words. So I was in high school during 9/11. And when that happened, there were cries to go to war, and everybody was really excited to go to war. And I remember feeling like, this doesn't feel right to me. But then also at the time, I was in Massachusetts, so it was a very liberal place. And there was a lot of liberal leaning stuff that I also wasn't into. And I wasn't a liberal and I wasn't a Republican, and I couldn't identify myself. And I had a friend who was like, because I started getting interested in Rand Paul. And I had a friend who was like, oh, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. So I
Oh,
had a
you're
friend
fine.
who was like, you should hear about this guy, Ron Paul. I'm like, oh, cool. So I got into Ron Paul, but he wasn't really, he was running for president. So I was really into that. And then he kind of disappeared. And then I got into Rand Paul. So, so then it was like, I was following the Pauls, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey shows up, and I'm like, oh, great. So I'm finding, it's like snowballing, and I'm finding all of these Republicans, but they're liberty minded like I am. And I'm like, okay, this is my tribe, and then I was feeling, it was right after Trump got elected the first time. And so it's 2017, and I'm feeling like I don't really have an outlet because, again, I'm in Massachusetts. Everybody's losing their minds. Everyone is losing their minds over this. I mean, there's people like gagging, and they can't stop. Every time they hear his name, they'll gag. Like, I mean, people were having this visceral like reaction to this
Yeah.
man being elected, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just needed someone to talk to. So that's when I got on Twitter, and I just wanted to make a couple of friends who were like minded that I could talk to. Just a couple. Oops, I messed up. I messed up, Big Angela. And yeah, and the rest is history.
Well, I guess it shows, how many people related to where you were at. And I think it's still really relevant with what's going on right now with the parties, right? And just people kind of feeling homeless. Like I'm getting canceled by people on the left right now, right? So it's just, there's a lot of that going, there's extremes on both sides. And like, it's,
I
yeah.
love so much that people can't figure you out. It's my favorite thing. They don't know what to think. Some of them are like, "Oh, she's trolling," and other people are like, "No, it's real." And I'm just like, I'm just here to watch. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, that's why I say I'm unboxable. There's, I don't know why everyone tries to, yeah, no, it's fun. But yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting political journey for me. Like I'm honestly keeping it real. Like I feel like I'm able to call things out on both sides and just like I'm more concerned about humanity and getting to like a better place. And I don't think that name calling and like more divisiveness and just like doubling down, is the way to go. So just because I'm able to ask, I think asking questions is so important, like to test your beliefs. And I don't know why people have a problem with that, but that's a common theme in a lot of things we're talking about. People having problems with a lot of things, like, your calendar, like asking questions, like you can't challenge anything outside of the talking points and the echo chamber right now. And I think there's something wrong with that.
That was one thing. I'm not afraid to ask questions if I don't understand something. So there's a lot that I do understand, and I have a pretty good understanding of a lot of other things. But if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask a question. And I think that that's something more people should do because I think that reflects intelligence to understand, okay, I'm out of my scope. I'm out of my depth. So I think that more people should start asking questions when they feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes you that much more like, why are you scared to do that? If you feel so strongly about something and you really believe in something, why not test it? Why not, play devil's advocate? And then you really know how firmly you stand on something. You've challenged, you've tested, you've asked the questions.
Mhm.
So I'm completely with you on that. Also, I think it's for me important to be open-minded. I don't
Mhm.
think that I have all the answers. I definitely don't all have all the answers. And like you said earlier, you're not a perfect human, right? We're human, we make mistakes. I think to me, I really value growing and like learning throughout my life. I see it as a journey. And I think I value personal growth and becoming a better person and learning things as I go along. So being able to have conversations with other people and being open minded about it.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I was really excited when you invited me. I'm like, I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. Yeah. Um, I'm so excited that you wanted to be here. Were you always into history? Yeah, like I know you mentioned high school,
Uh-huh.
and I'm curious with your content, you know, some people are probably not as excited about learning about, even though obviously it's super important.
Yeah.
It's not as, some people might even call it boring.
Yep.
I don't know what's wrong with them, but how do you make, history? How do you engage your audience related to, the history that you dive into?
I'm a natural storyteller. So, well, I'm not always fluent because I get really excited and and I do all that stuff like a normal person, but I'll tell a story and I'll make the story relatable to them. So, for instance, like the Boston Tea Party, people are like, oh, that was a 2% tea tax. I'm like, no, actually, there was King George. He was in bed with the world's largest multinational conglomerate, and he had agreed to make them not pay any taxes and have all of their lost product refunded to them at the expense of the colonists. So it wasn't just a 2% tea tax, it was fascism. It was literal fascism. And that's why a main reason why. And at the same point, all of Parliament had invested into the East India Company. So they had a total monopoly. And this monopoly allowed them to undercut the smugglers or the entrepreneurs in America. So John Hancock in particular. And he was a very wealthy man. John Hancock has a lot in common with President Trump, even to the point where he had his home raided by the Redcoats.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
a rich guy, and he shakes things up. He was, president of Massachusetts, like so he really reminds me in a lot of ways of somebody who has amassed a large amount of wealth and doesn't really care, but wants to make the country a better place. And so that's what he did. And that's what he worked to do. And he was a wanted man. So battles of Lexington and Concord, there's another one. We know those were the first battles of the Revolutionary War, right? Well, there were two reasons that happened. One was for gun confiscation. The Redcoats actually weren't going in there because they wanted to start a fight. They were going into the sneak in and take the guns and the powder and any weapons from the storage house for Lexington and Concord. Weapons were stored. At the same time, Paul Revere was the writer, and this is the only one we heard about. And he was largely unknown until Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem about him, Paul Revere's Ride. But he actually wrote out to warn John Hancock and Sam Adams, who were both wanted, and they were hiding at the Lexington house where John Hancock lived. They were hiding out there, and he actually wrote up to warn them, and that was his job. His job wasn't to warn that the British are coming. That wasn't even a thing. But
Yeah.
it wasn't for that. It was to tell his friends, you guys got to get out of here because the Redcoats are on their way in. And there were other riders that night, and those were the riders that were charged with that. Paul Revere never did that. So that's just a really interesting story too.
That's another amazing flex. You like really know your stuff. So that's another thing. People are like, oh yeah, they think they know their history. Like I took history in high school, etc. And they think they know things. And then you're like, actually, so
Yeah.
you really know your stuff, which goes, you self-taught. Well, I mean, obviously I'm sure you learned things in school, but
Mhm.
I had to look this word up because I didn't know what it was. The
Autodidact.
1776 autodidact, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
like self-taught,
Self-taught.
like self-learned a lot. Yeah, a lot about
A lot of
American
stuff.
history.
And I did that. I went to source documents. So a lot of history is rewritten. And we learned that, like I'm telling you now, like it wasn't a 2% tax on tea and that was all rewritten, because that's something to kind of to get us mad about. We're mad when we hear that there's a tax, but we're not mad when we hear about fascism. And what are we dealing with right now? Like what does the world look like right now? We're paying more than that. We have everybody invested in everything. There's monopolies left and right. There's like I think 10 companies own the entire world, but we're not mad about any of that because none of that was taught to us. We're taught to be mad at this little tiny thing that wasn't even accurate. When it came down to the tax was actually closer to 17% that they were paying when all was said and done. So, but that's the kind of, I get my research from source documents. So I'll look at old newspapers. I'll look at autobiographies written at the time. Yes. In retrospect of the Boston Tea Party, this is the only firsthand account in existence of the Boston Tea Party because they all took pretty much a vow of secrecy saying, we're not going to talk about this for 50 years. They all agreed not to talk about it for 50 years and that they would all tell their own story when they did so that they would never rat each other out. And that's why so few of us know any of the people that were involved in the Boston Tea Party because they all kept it to themselves until they died. And it was until they died. They never talked about it because that's what honor was at the time. So this was the memoir of George R.T. Hughes, and he wrote it in 1834. So he really held to that 50-year mark, and then he wrote it all down. And so this talks about everything that happened in it. And I love it because of the writing. See, it's actually written, it's pulled, it's printed like write off what it would have looked like in 1834. So that's the kind of stuff that I look at. And I look at the Federalist Papers, which were also written at that time. And I've got them right here. So that's, and this is when people are like, well, how do you understand the Constitution so much? I'm like, well, this is the outline for the Constitution. This is how they sold the Constitution to the states, in particular to New York, when people were worried about having a centralized government. They just wanted the states to kind of be a union. They didn't really want this. And so this sold it to them. But it was sold to them on the basis that we would have a Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights would protect them from the Supremacy Clause, the General Welfare Clause, anything that that a president might be able to take advantage of. He would be limited by the 10th Amendment, which was the states' rights to say, if it's not written down in your articles, then it belongs to us. Sorry,
wow.
It does get a little boring.
No, I mean, no, you really do have a way of making it all really interesting, and it, like you said, it's related, and you're going straight to the source too. So that kind of shuts down arguments right away too. When you're just like, I have it right here. Like, you're going straight to the source.
Like, did you make it up? I'm like, no.
Like,
James Madison
here
said it right
it is. The proof is literally, yeah.
Yep.
So that another baller move. Love another flex. But yeah, so you go straight to the source. That kind of eliminates, should anyway.
Mm-hmm.
People love to argue and whatever, think they're right and know everything. But you would think that would eliminate a lot of arguments. Also, you make it really relatable because you bring it into today and relevant to things that are going on today and things that matter to us in our lives. As individuals, as families, as the stuff that we care about, and that connects us, right? The same things that were going on then are the same kind of things that are going on in different ways, obviously, in different times, but it relates to current day.
Yes. What my biggest flex of all of my flexes.
There's more?
Biggest flex is the amount of times Elon Musk has retweeted my history lessons. That is my biggest flex. The most recent one that he did is England is falling apart, right? With all these speech laws. And I'm like, well, actually, nothing's ever changed. Here is the Declaration of Independence. And we have all of this because of laws that they wrote when they rejected the peace deal, the olive branch treaty that was offered to them. They rejected it. King George rejected it. And called them all rebels and put down all these speech laws. And the penalties for mean speech for the colonists were, it was treason. So you could be hanged, drawn, quartered, and then it would be heavy fines. You could go to jail without trial, and it was all of this. And it's like nothing has changed over there. They've just kind of like shifted a little bit, but it's still the same royal people ruling it, but it's still Parliament. It's still all these people putting all these horrible laws down, but nothing has changed. Like, you guys, if you want to be free, just borrow our letter and change a few things, make it look like you didn't copy it, and nothing's changed. It's the same kind of grievances. I mean, when it comes to the grievances in the Declaration of Independence, it wasn't just tax. That's another thing we're talking. It's just tax, right? No, the 8th, 9th, 12th, 15th, 18th, and 19th Amendments all are grievances, all dealt with captured courts and 2 tiers of justice. And then what's creepiest, what makes my skin crawl, is King George was arming foreigners and sending them into America to kill the colonists. What's happening in Europe? What was happening at the border? So to have this all happening again, but he was arming the Hessians. He sent the Hessians in, and the Canadians, and then the natives. And they were all sent in, and this is all listed in the grievances. It's all sent in to hurt the colonists, and that's what's happening now.
Wow. So you've gotten Elon's attention. Has he said anything to you? Has he commented at all on it, or yeah?
He's commented, his exclamation points to draw attention to it. He's retweeted it. He's quote tweeted it with wow, this is really interesting. Things like, or I didn't know this, things like that. So yeah, he's said things to lead people to read it, which really is great. And that just makes me want to be better. that just makes me want to learn more and be better. And because I master this little tiny piece of history, in reality to all of history. The revolution, if you want to get technical, it was 1733 with the Molasses Act. And that's when everything really started. And it didn't end until we had a Bill of Rights. You know, it didn't end until like 1791. So that's how long all of this happened before it was start to finish and we had a new country. It was a long time. Revolutions take a long time. I mean, if you want to get really condensed with it, it would have been the Stamp Act. So it would have been in the 1765, 1766, 67, in that area until 1791 when we had a Bill of Rights, or, you know, until the surrender at Yorktown, or the at 1781, or the Treaty of Paris in 1783. It could be any of those times, but you know, it's revolutions take a long time is what I'm saying. So, I mean, even now, if we're in the midst of a revolution, it's going to be decades before it's over, even though, I mean, that's kind of a black pill, but you get
it. Well, while we're on the topic of accomplishments, which I don't know, there's already been so many that I've heard, but are there any others standout, like things that you're proud of, or moments or highlights, or I don't know, just in your life in general, not even pertaining to social media or content, but I guess in general.
my kids are my proudest. Everything they do, I'm crazy about my children. So my kids are my proudest achievement by far. They just do amazing things. They're My oldest daughter is an amazing athlete. She'll probably go to the Olympics someday. My middle daughter is a beautiful singer. My youngest daughter is a quirky little genius. I love that. I love them. I love working for Timcast. I get to do my own little show once a week. I go on his show. I got this coffee right here, Casper Coffee. It's amazing. It's, oh my gosh. And I'm not just like tooting my own horn here because it's my coffee. I want a candle with this. It is the best smell I've ever smelled. I could not believe it was my coffee got to have this smell. You walk in, it's almost like a caramel, but there isn't caramel in it. It's chocolate and like vanilla notes, but it smells so good. I just like open my bag and smell it sometimes, and it's just amazing.
Well,
I'm
I
just bored
love
to smell my
coffee,
coffee.
and that you've sold me. First of all, I love coffee. Second
Mhm.
of all, the smell now. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to order some. How did that come about?
Um,
Your own
Tim,
coffee.
Tim's had cast brew coffee for a few years now, and he'll take one of his employees, or his cat has his cat, Mr. Bocus, who had passed away, has pumpkin spice, but he will take like Ian, who works there. He was like kind of the original. He's done ones for, I think, Alex Stein has a coffee. So he's just done coffees to kind of draw, people in from different places to engage with Timcast and that sort of thing. And it's a way to kind of level up the people who are kind of in your circle, but not quite in your circle, and kind of bring them to you. So mine was 1776 Signature Brew, which was just brilliantly named. And
Mhm.
um, the
Absolutely.
artist who made it is my producer, Jessica. And she took a picture. She's like, "Do you have any pictures of yourself?" And I'm like, "I might have some. Here's one of me modeling a dress." So I sent it to her, and it has this like, so it's got like, she just, I don't know how she did this. It's amazing. Look how amazing this is.
Awesome.
And
It's
it turned into some
awesome.
kind of like Statue of Liberty sort of thing. And it's exactly, and it's 1776 Signature Brew. It's just amazing. So, and it smells good and it tastes good. And it kind of makes me, I know it's the 4th of July, but it kind of makes me think of like Christmas. Like it's something I would drink at Christmas. So I'm like, I'm going to totally boost this again at Christmas because everybody needs to have this Christmas morning.
Yeah,
It's so
it's a
good.
great gift.
Yes,
Also, like
exactly. Great
a
gift.
perfect gift. I mean, who doesn't like coffee, first of all? The
Mhm.
packaging, the whole thing, it's a
Yep.
great gift, so,
It's a
yeah.
great gift. And it smells good. It smells great. Great smell. Amazing. Couldn't believe it.
So something else that you've been vocal about is skepticism toward mainstream narratives.
Mhm.
Is there an issue currently that you think is highly misunderstood by the public right now? Like, I guess most that you think is highly misunderstood right now related
Um,
to that
there was
mainstream
a lot
narratives?
more. We have a slightly more transparent administration now, so I mean, there's more to understand. The Biden regime kept a lot from us, and there was we were watching a show, like a performance, but something that was largely misunderstood by a lot of people who don't have a knowledge of history is how we were mirroring. We had King George during J6. That was King George. Um, I mean, the way they were hunting people down, there was two tiers of justice. There still really is. Um, they were they were enhancing penalties, which is something like King George would do. And just the parallels of that, I mean, just looking back to like imprisoning people beyond, and like not having any representation. There was no fifth, sixth, eighth amendments. There was no speech. We really lived in a very scary time. And at the time it was during the pandemic. So we were all really repressed anyway. And so I think that a lot of that didn't come through until we were allowed to be free again. And suddenly, looking back in hindsight at what actually happened, how bad things actually got, we lived under tyranny and we survived it. We came out of it, but this tyranny is what got us President Trump, is what we were living under to what we came to now. And I think a lot of people didn't really see how bad it was or how closely it mirrored living in 1776 and what drove them to that.
How are you feeling in terms of hope at the moment for the country in our future?
I was feeling really great in the first 3 months of this presidency. I was feeling amazing. And I mean, I'm a non-interventionist, and we're in too many wars right now, and I don't see that stopping. I mean, okay, here's one. We have the Department of War now, okay, or the War Department is what they changed it to. And everyone, a lot of libertarians are like, no, this is bad. I'm like, actually, no, this is good. Let me tell you why. So George Washington had the War Department. He loved it. That was what he called it. He called it the War Department, and that's what the name was passed through Congress, was the War Department. And we had the War Department until 1947, when Truman changed it to the Defense Department. And then for the next 78 years, we went to regime change wars and proxy wars and offensive wars under the guise of defense. So there's no more gaslighting anymore. We're back to the War Department. If we're going to get involved, there's no more doublespeak. There's no more doublethink. We're the War Department now. If we're going to use the War Department, it's because we're going to war. There's no defense here. We're not defending ourselves from anything. We were when we were called the War Department. So I'm all about that. I'm all about that life right there.
I love it. Well, thank you for giving us. I can't believe that we're like out of time already.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I know, like I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. And I'm like, wait, there's so many things I wanted to talk about. My last question, as sort of, the mental health counselor background in me, is what kind of, I guess, would you consider your happy place or things that bring you joy?
When I'm feeling really stressed out and I go to my mental happy place, I go to my grandmother's house when I was a little girl. And that's where I think of the smells of it. I think of just the energy there. It was calm. I would love going outside and the way that the grass smelled and the way that the nature smelled. And that's I'm very scent oriented, if you haven't noticed. So, it's, I go there in my head. That's my real happy place. Otherwise, I mean, what's good about working on the internet is I can just put my phone down and return to my life at any point that I want. But it gets hard, and you can't always separate it. I wasn't just like Calendargate. I wasn't able to just do that because it was there. It was real. It was big. It was like this leading story throughout all of America. I wasn't able to separate myself from it all the time. But if I need to decompress, I mentally go to my grandmother's house. And if I physically need to decompress, I just get off the phone and I just go hang out with my kids, watch a movie, binge something, paint something. I'm an artist. Yeah, I like to do, that's the kind of stuff that I like to do, to just kind of be a real person.
Yeah. It's so important to have those things. So I love to ask because it's different for everyone. And honestly, too, some days we need different things, right? Like there's not just one answer to that either. So I think the more things we have at our disposal, because life can be a lot, things can be a lot. So I think, and I did get the whole, like, you kind of bring in all the senses, and I love that. In terms of a happy place, it's like the visual, the smells, the sounds, you can
The
really
flavor.
like put yourself
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Josie, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Can you do anything you want to, where can people find you? Anything you want to promote? We talked about your coffee,
Mhm.
Timcast.
Yes, timcast.com, definitely there. Go to Rumble, subscribe to all of our shows, Timcast Media across every platform. Buy my coffee, timcast.com, Cast Brew Coffee. Yep, do that. I am on X. That's really the only place I am. I'm on Rumble too. You can find my show there. It's not very, it's not like a big show or anything. I really do everything on X, but you can find me there at TRHL Official, and I am the Redheaded Libertarian.
Josie, I appreciate you so much. This has been a very bold talk.
Thank you so much for having me.